Okay, here we are for our first goldfish painting. And I'm gonna go ahead and try to hurry up so that, you can stop the video whenever you need it if you wanna look at something. But the first thing I did was I got a little sample of, and tried out my colors and just I just do like a little test strip. And we've done this in class. So this is our cad orange. This is the cad red. This is the, cad orange and the cad red and the cad orange mixed together, and then I also add some Windsor yellow also, just to get a variation of these colors. This is my French ultramarine blue, and this is going to be the underneath, kind of like the water part that looks kind of like water. This is the larger goldfish that I had painted, so you can kind of see the blue in there. And that goes on last, and then we're gonna speckle it with the blue. So the eye is the cad orange and a little bit of the blue mixed together. So you'll have to practice that if you can kind of see how I was working on the eye. It makes a little bit of a dark. And then I also added a little bit of it here and there just for some depth. So, okay, this is the large one. We're gonna do the little one first, and I'm gonna get started painting. So here we go. Okay, here's my brush. I don't think I'm gonna need that one. Here's my water. Here's my palette, all ready to go. Okay, this is a lighter version of how I like my pattern to be really light, but this one is a little bit darker so that maybe you can see it. It's not a huge difference, but I do try to put my pattern on as light as possible, but I did this a little bit darker so that you can see it better. Okay, so we're gonna start with a little bit of cad orange, and my palette's always dirty, so I always kind of mix my colors together. So if you can see what I'm doing, I'm adding the water to my cad orange. So I'm kind of making a pile here with the water in it, cad orange, okay? And then I'm gonna mix up a little bit of cad red and cad orange, just a little, just so I can draw from it as I'm painting my goldfish, okay? So I'll get a little bit more orange and add to that, just so I get a little variation of color. And then if I need something a little darker, I'll just go straight to cad red, okay? Here's my Windsor yellow over here, and it does have a lot of green in it, so I gotta be careful there. So I kind of cleaned it out, but I paint with a messy palette, so you guys are super neat painters, I don't know. So this is my cad yellow. If you first squirt out your colors, they're going to be nice and liquidy. Mine stay in their wells, and they harden, and then I just have to rehydrate them with water. That's the fun thing about watercolors. So I've got my 3 colors here, and I'm going to start with my cad orange, okay? And I'm just going to get some of that wet, and I'm just gonna go ahead and just get my little fish. I'm just gonna get him a little bit wet. The more times you hydrate your watercolor paper, the better it gets. So I am gonna leave white space. I think you guys know what white space is. I'm trying to paint with a little bit of color in my brush. I would usually probably do this with just water, but I wanted to have a little bit of color in my brush so that you can kind of see what I'm doing, because I don't know how my video is going to come out. So I'm just kind of starting to get him hydrated. I want to leave the middle of him a little bit lighter, and then I'm going to just come around his face a little bit, leaving some space, leaving some white space. Leave some white space up there around his little nose. I guess fish have noses. Okay. I'm not a fish anatomy kind of person too well. Okay, so there's his little body. And then I'm going to just get a little bit of that wet, really light. You can just do this with just water. And then I'm just going to start putting in a little of his fins and upper fins and lower fins. I probably should have done some fish anatomy thinking before I started painting. I don't know what all this is. Anyway, So this is a little fin here, and then just a little bit. Try to go with the way that the veins in the fish go, okay? And you don't have to stay right exactly on your line. If you see what I'm doing, I'm picking up some of this wet here, though it's kind of standing up, and I'm just kind of adding, you know, a little bit of, I'm taking some of that and just starting to get my outline of my fish. I'm not doing everything. I'm just using dirty orange water, okay? Just kind of dirty orange water. Just get a few things going here just to get his outline going so I can see him better, okay? All right, get some water. Make sure you've got your water there. And you can just touch your brush, if you can see it. You can just touch your brush into the water like that, and then your brush will drink the water right up. Okay, so we're just kind of getting him wet for the first time, okay? And like I said, you don't have to stay exactly in the lines there. Leave some white space on his body. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and get some more orange, maybe a little bit of this orange and cad red together. It's always nice to test it a little bit on your piece of sample. I think maybe you can see it there. Okay, and then we're going to just kind of start and let's start putting in some of that. Make sure you've got you constantly have to go back and forth to your water and getting your brush hydrated. And you can see I'm just doing little curvy they're not even strokes. I'm just putting the paint on actually and leaving some of the white space there, and then as it starts to dry it'll adhere to the paper, and we'll go over this a couple of times. Okay, so you want to kind of keep this part around his little face, I guess, is going to be a little bit darker, okay? And you can coax the paint along too, and then you can flatten out your brush and just kind of coax the paint along, and then you're going to want to put a little bit kind of up in here, okay? And then we're just going to let that kind of dry, still keeping some of that white space in the middle, okay? Because you want to make him look like he's got a little bit of a round body. So I'm using that wet paint, and I'm just kind of coming in and putting in some of his little fins along here. You want to just use the very, very tip of your brush. Can you see how I'm just lightly touching? Okay, and keeping the dark next to his body. And you want to do some little strokes in here. Still leave that white space. I love white space. Okay, and then we're going to do this bottom fin here. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit in there, and this is just the next coat. Okay, still leaving white space, and you can see as it dries, you can come back and add a little more if you want to. Okay, and it's kind of wet there, so the paint is dispersing. So keep it kind of close. Okay, and you can see where this is dried a little bit, and I want his face to be a little darker. Watercolor paper is kind of funny. It looks like it's dry, but it might not be all the way dry, and you want to just add some little touches here, and he's got like a little bit, I don't know, fish lips, I don't know, a mouth. Okay, so we're getting a little bit here. This tail, you want to make sure that you're going in the direction of the way the fish's fins are going to go. And you're going to kind of keep it a little darker next to his body, and then you want it to kind of fade out. You can take your brush and take some of the water out of it, and just kind of take that water, that paint that's already there, and just move it around. Just move it around. But don't paint it in solid, okay? Don't paint it in solid. I layer my watercolors. I start off light and get the pattern going and get things going in the right direction. And then I might add a little bit. So he's starting to come to life a little bit. He's starting to to get a little bit of shape here and there. Okay, a little bit darker in here. Okay. All right, now you can see that things are drying, so I'm going back and maybe adding a little. Did you see how I picked up that red, that cad red? Still mixing it with my little orange mix, but it's going to be a little bit redder. Now, I don't want my fish to be too red. I love orange. Not a lot of people love orange, but I love orange. Okay, so we're putting a little bit in here, just getting another value, just getting a little bit darker as we go along, here and there, not everywhere, kind of around his face. Okay, so you want it to kind of, it's gonna start to almost look like little dots and puddles. I'm gonna try to take it closer for you to look at, okay? Don't blend it too much yet, okay? Just let the paint do its thing. All right, hopefully you can see how I'm getting water also. Okay, so I'm adding a little bit here. I'm kind of letting it dry a little bit. There's a little bit of, I'm dotting it along, and that watercolor paper is wet underneath. Watercolor paper is layered, so layered paper. And I'm gonna be careful that I don't want too many little dots right there, but okay, so that was blending. You just kind of a little bit with your brush, okay? And if you have a place where it's a little bit too thick, you can come in there and kind of move it around some. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm putting in what I think is like a little bit of, few little scales, or, you know, fish bodies aren't completely solid. They're shiny and they have all kinds of little scales, okay? So try to work in small little motions, okay? Kind of get up there along anything that looks a little bit weird, you can kind of work it with your brush and blend it a little bit. If it's pretty solid, you can add some more color here and there just to kind of break it up, okay? And you can see these lines through it a little bit. I'm gonna kind of give this guy a little bit more. And come outside of your lines here a little bit. And I'm a very light painter too, so I get way up on the tip of that, just on the tip of that brush, okay? Now, if you have a watercolor brush that's just like a kid watercolor brush, you're probably not going to be able to get that nice tip on your brush. That's one of the good things about having a decent brush. And you can get a fairly decent beginner watercolor brush for under $10, or right around $10. So look around and see what you like. I like a Scharf brush. These are brushes that I have to order, and they do a synthetic and a natural hair mixed brush, and it works really well, and it's pretty decent. So that's what I use. This one is the Princeton, so I'm trying that out. I like that too. Okay, all right, so I'm done kind of playing with that. I'm going to add some yellow. I'm gonna rinse my brush out. I'm gonna come get some of this Winsor yellow, and I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow in here. Not a lot, but I do want to have some brighter color. I'm still gonna leave some white. It's hard to go back and put in the white, so don't put too much in. I'm gonna add some yellow in. Okay, just to here and there, kind of on those fins. Okay. A little bit here and there. I'm going to add more yellow down this way, I think, and maybe a little bit up here. Okay. Light touches. Don't fill it all in. If you have an area that you want to, you can flatten that brush out, and you can just move that paint around just a little bit. You can kind of scrub it a little bit, but I don't want to do a scrubbing technique too much. Just want to soften that just a little bit. Okay, all right. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put the eye in. So the eye is going to be the French ultramarine blue. Can y'all see this on the, okay, hold on, let me get it over here. Little French ultramarine blue and a little bit of orange. Now that is going to make a little bit of a yucky mucky color. Actually, let me get some cad red in there. I think the cad red is going to kind of make it that yucky mucky color, and it's going to turn it a little bit on the purple side. Some blue and that cad red, okay? And that is going to be our fish eye color, okay? It's going to give you that dark, let's get a little bit of the cad red. I think I told you wrong. Cad red and French ultramarine. Don't get it too dark, okay? This is kind of dark. Okay, so to put the eye in, you want to mix up a little bit of that color, and then you want to start putting the eye in. But you know how I like to leave that white space, and I don't really like to use masking fluid if I don't have to. Touch around the eye, leaving a little bit of white space, okay, and it just kind of sits up there, okay. So that is our fish eye, okay. All right, and of course I always have to play with stuff, so I'm going to come in here and just touch a little bit along the bottom here. I decided to get a little too much there, so I'm just going to pick it off. Okay, eyes in. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of that color, probably with a little bit of the orange and a little bit of the cad red. And that's going to make it just a little bit darker. And anywhere where I just feel like I need a little bit more darkness in there, just to make it look like his fins are attached to his body, I'm going to add a little bit there. And these little bits. Okay, so let's do this cad red, cad orange mix, and a touch of the French ultramarine blue. And you get kind of a little bit of a darker color, but that blue will really come together real well when we finish this last couple of steps. Okay, all right, so we don't want to be too much, and you don't want to have it right, you don't want to paint a solid line, you just want to put little dibs and dabs in so that you get this little fish going. Kind of cover up some of those pencil lines just a little bit. Okay. Right here, I cleaned my brush off. I'm gonna just take a little bit of it off. Just didn't blend. It looked like it was dark here and then it went light. So I like to blend things out a little bit better. Okay. Don't play with it too much. You can go back and add some yellows in if you feel like that he needs to be a little brighter. Okay, all right. So we're getting to the point where we're just going to do a few little touches here and there, and then we're going to finish it up. Okay, I am going to go back to my cad orange because that's kind of my brightest color, and I love orange. Did I say that already? And I'm going to add a little bit of more orange here and there, just kind of around his face a little bit. Kind of in that little area. I'm going to be careful not to mess with that eye, okay? So I'm just going to add a little bit more of the cad orange. Not going to blend it too much. Don't blend it too much, okay? And just kind of give him some scales, okay? Just a few little dibs and dabs here and there, okay? And I don't want it to look like solid lines either. I just kind of want to, you know, make it look like he's real washy, okay? All right, okay. A little bit here and there, leaving that white space, which will be good. Okay. Now the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go to our French ultramarine blue over here. I'm gonna pull it over here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. Okay, and I'm going to mix it up so it's real kind of washy. Now my little puddle right there has some green in it, so I'm just going to stay away from that. Okay, so I've kind of mixed up some of that blue, and I'm going to take a little bit of that blue, and I'm going to just start going underneath him just a little bit with that real light washy blue. Okay, just like he's flipping his fins, and flipping his fins, you don't get too far, and just making a little bit of a shadow underneath him, just a tiny bit underneath the fish. Okay, and yeah, just, you don't have to do it everywhere. I know on my big fish it seems like I really kind of did it everywhere. See how I did on that, but the more it dried, the more I liked it. Okay, so I'm putting in the blue underneath, and I'm scissoring back and forth just a little bit here and there, and just kind of like just scissor it back and forth with a light touch. Okay, kind of underneath, and yeah, okay, so I'm kind of getting up underneath there and underneath those little fins. Okay, you can kind of keep it underneath if you want to, or you can go all the way around it. I just don't want you to outline it. Just keep it nice and watery, and then just lighter. You can get lighter bits of the paint, and real watery, and you can add, you know, just so he's like flipping his fins and making a splash. Okay, okay. So you can put a little bit up top if you want to. Basically, I'm just touching around him. Still getting that washy paint, real washy paint. Now my palette looks kind of dirty, but it does get stained after a while. Okay, and so you can put some blue up under there, just wiggling it around. Maybe up under here you can get a little bit darker with the blue. Okay, your fish should just about be dry. Okay, and that's about all I'm going to do for this little guy right now. You can just take your brush with just a tiny bit on it and put some out here, just to look like he's swimming along. Okay, and I'm just gonna kind of pat that in and blend it in just a little bit. Little bits of watercolor really do show. Okay, all right, last thing. Take that wet blue that you have, can add a little bit more. You don't want to get it too dark, that's too dark. Okay, get a little bit. If you get it too dark, just rinse your brush off. Water is going to lighten it up. Okay, you take your wet paint and you start to drop your wet, watery paint. Of course, it's not going to. Okay, and you start to do your dripping and your bubbles and your, you know, little bits on your watercolor paper here, just to make it look like he's swimming along. And also, just water is good to make your paint kind of make it look like bubbles in water. Okay, so sign your name with your mechanical pencil, unless you've practiced your name 500 times with your brush. And you can just put it up close to your little painting, and voila, you have a baby goldfish. I hope you enjoyed painting. It was really fun. And I will post the pattern for the big guy. Same exact way to paint it. He's just bigger. So I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time. Bye.